Working very hard with City Council and with the sponsorship of Councilors Benton and Jones and the full support of the Council, we have finally arrived to tonight, to the kickoff of our updating the comprehensive plan in conjunction with Bernalillo County and with the creation of a unified development ordinance. We are so thrilled that you're here. We think that it's a very good sign that we have this number for the first kickoff meeting, and we look forward to your continuing to participate all the way through this journey with us. We have a 2-year journey ahead of us, and we really need your input and your thoughts and your ideas and your help. So we're very, very glad that you're here. I would like to just turn this over right away to Don Elliott. Don is with Clarion and Associates, and they are our lead project team member. This group of consultants is made up of several team members, and Don will introduce them to you. Don has many years of experience. This is not his first trip to the rodeo, so to speak, and we think that after reviewing many RFPs and thinking and analyzing, we all as a group felt that Don and his team were incredibly well suited to help us down this journey and to help us figure out what our vision for Albuquerque is and how we want to get there. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to you, Don Elliott.
You're not supposed to applaud until the end. You don't know what's coming. Yeah, so no, great. Thank you very much for being here. This is, I will tell you, I'm sure John, where's John Freganese? There you are. We'll agree. This is an amazing turnout. This is wonderful for us. I have been at kickoffs for, frankly, projects that were this exciting and this important with a quarter of the turnout that we've had here. So thank you for being here. It's wonderful, and as you'll hear several times tonight, and as Susanna said, we can't do it without you. We want to go through briefly a presentation that gives you the basic outlines of how this 2-year journey has been structured, what we're aiming at, the processes that we intend to use, the values that we're trying to put into the process and the final product, and to let you ask questions. So we have deliberately kept this to a pretty short presentation. It should take 10 to 15 minutes, and our real goal is to then have you ask questions of us or give us your ideas about what you do and do not want to have happen based on what we've presented. So I'll start off with this. It's a little vague. I am a director with Clarion Associates. We are a national land use consulting firm, and we write development codes. That's what we do. We write them all over the country. We've done over 130 of them, all the way from rural counties to Philadelphia, to Anchorage, to Aspen, to Florida. We've done lots of them, and we specialize in trying to help people take their vision for the future, turn it into an efficient set of regulations and incentives to make it happen. Now, with that background, I'm going to introduce Tarek Wafai is with me from Denver. We are based in Denver, and we're very pleased to have been selected to do this work. John Freganese is here with his firm. John and Glenn Boland and Erica Smith are with Freganese Associates. We're here because Clarion Associates is the overall project manager, but we will be taking the lead in rewriting the development code for the city of Albuquerque. John and his team are in charge of updating, not starting over, updating the comp plan, which is a joint comprehensive plan for the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. And it's a very good sign that you have a joint comprehensive plan and you're committed to updating it. So the county is involved in that part. When you hear about new zoning, the new zoning is Albuquerque, it's not Bernalillo County. So this is what we do. For some odd reason, we think this is fun, and we like doing it. Here's the team. This is simply who I've mentioned earlier and some other folks from the Clarion Associates team. and the Fregonese Associates team. In addition, we have two very skilled consultants that are grounded and live and work and operate out of Albuquerque. One is Decker Parrish Sabatini, architects, engineers, planners, very much grounded in long-term residents. The point is to have work with people who have been here a long time and know you, and know the interest, and know the city, and know its concerns. We also have Tim Karpoff. Because Tim is here, right? Tim, are you here? There he is, waving his hand in the back. Tim is also here as a facilitator, engagement, public facilitator, to try to make sure that we are casting a broad net. And I had the question an hour ago. Don, are you writing this for builders, or are you writing it for citizens? And the answer is we're writing it for both. Tim and Decker Parrish are trying to help us make sure we have connected with the various folks that really care about the future of Albuquerque, make sure we're reflecting your values. Down at the bottom, an economic analyst and a transportation planner. One of the major issues that has come up in the current planning and zoning for the county and city is that a lot of things that have been planned for can't be financed and are not real in the market. So we are trying to test both the plan and the code against market realities. I guess I was in Colorado, I would say, are you smoking something? You know, is this real? Is this going to happen, or are you dreaming? So we want to test it. And then transportation and land use. There are serious issues of transportation congestion. And, you know, we understand the geography of Albuquerque enough to know how that's happened with the river and the bridges. But it's very important that the update to the comp plan make sure that land use and transportation are coordinated. So that's why they're there. That's the team. It's a 2-year effort. It's a 2-year journey. I like that phrase. Get used to this logo at the top, A, B, C to Z. That's what we're calling this. Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, going from planning to zoning. So the Z is for zoning, and our tagline is improving place from planning to zoning. Now, I also want to say, in addition to being, when you see that image, those 4 teardrops, that's this project. When you see notices or you see that logo. But we also have a website that's supposed to be active today, www.abc-zone, ABC-zone. It's not ABC-Z because that was taken. So abc-zone.com. We'll talk later about that, but that's how you should recognize the efforts about this project. So it's an update to the comp plan, I've explained, and a new Unified Development Code. What is a new Unified Development Code? It rolls together the zoning, the subdivision, the land development rules and incentives, not the vague ideas, but the rules and incentives that are communicated to the private market as to how to build in the city. Here are the values, and I want to make sure that everybody understands. I won't make you repeat after me. They are in no particular order. These are not rank ordered values. These are a list of things that we're aiming at based on the RFP the city put out and based on our experience. Economic, obviously promoting reinvestment where it needs to be done. Placemaking, the art and the tools to make great places and to protect existing places is just miles ahead of where it was 10 or 15 years ago. And John is going to talk to you about the ways they approach planning for the future based on the places that they want to result. A lot more realistically than we did in the past, and a lot more visually and data-driven. Access and mobility, I've talked about. Transportation, quality of life. Sustainability is another area where things like energy use and water use have just become, and connectivity, public health, walkability, bike trails. The way we draft codes now is completely different than the way you did it 15 years ago. People care deeply about this stuff. It's interesting in my field. There's not one city in America that I have gotten an RFP from in the last 15 years where the citizens have not asked the city to build in more sustainability into their planning and zoning. It's very interesting to me. Even in 2009, when everybody said we need economic development, jobs and taxes, they also said, but we're not willing to compromise on sustainability to get there. We want that. So, and then simplification. When you pile together the city's current zoning ordinance, and then the development process manual, and then the sector plans, area plans, and the zones related to them, and you put them in a stack, it is one of the most complicated systems our firm has ever seen. Now that's not a distinction Albuquerque should be proud of. You don't need all of that to get the city you want. Good, I'm glad. I like to simplify things, and that's what we know. Your system now of a comp plan and then ranked plans, and then your zoning ordinance with buried special use districts in it. You know who else does that in the country? Almost nobody. It is not the way you guide development to get your goals done. So I'm excited in this, not because I like to do this for a living generally, but when you see one this complicated, you say, I know I'm going to succeed because it couldn't be more complicated than it is now. We are going to make it simpler. So that's where we are. I'm going to let John talk about the process. John over here, talk about the process of the comp plan update.
So in order for this zoning to be really reflective of community goals, it has to be based on your community vision. And that's your comprehensive plan. And we just got the history of the updates. It was minorly updated in 2013, but the foundation of the plan goes back to 1988, updated in 2001. There's some really good ideas there. There's the centers and corridors we know people generally like, and you've been working with that and having some success. But it's time to update that and freshen that plan up for another 20 years and make sure that it's giving everybody the direction to be able to rewrite that code. So the goal here is to update it for the future. So we're going to look down the road, 20 years, what kind of housing you're going to need. What's the demographics? What are the young people coming in? How much older are you going to be? What is the economic development going to be? What kind of land are they going to need? Where will those jobs reside in this area? You know, what are the drivers to growth and change in Albuquerque? We want to be able to identify and look again. There's ideas in the current plan. Make sure we're capturing all the key areas for economic growth and neighborhood protection. We want to be able to better integrate land use and transportation planning. There's been this movement in the last 20 years. Now it's called complete streets. It used to be called context-sensitive design. Mainly designing streets so that they match the land use around them, and making sure that that's something that's integrated from state highways down to the smallest local roads and alleys. Emphasizing placemaking, so you're emphasizing the kind of neighborhoods and places that people want to go and want to stay, and that they're appropriate and a variety to suit people's desires. And one of the big ideas, as Don said, it's a complicated system, is that you've got these rank 2 and rank 3 sector plans, and to try to integrate the planning part into the comp plan so that you go to one document, you see as much as you can, not meaning that we won't have sector plans, but to try to make it simpler and better understood and more cohesive, because one of the big problems is you have to go to too many places to find out what the heck you can do. We are leaders in basically building scenarios. Just like when people now, they go to build an airplane, they don't build a model airplane or build an actual size airplane and put it in a test pilot. They build it in a computer, and you're able to fly it all around in the computer, run it through a storm, you know, see how it goes. We will build Albuquerque in the computer, and we'll be able to fly you all around, and if it crashes, it's just a computer. We'll be able to find out from our mistakes and improve it. So we're going to create an Albuquerque of today and several versions of an Albuquerque tomorrow, and we'll tell you all about what it's like to live there. We'll show you pictures. I've got graphics of what it's like to walk through that, but also indications: how much taxes, how much is it going to cost to run the city, how will people get around, will there be congestion, will people actually ride their bikes and walk and take transit, and how does that all work in terms of your health. We're going to start down with building types because we want to make sure this is grounded in economic reality. So it's a foundation of buildings that have a return on investment. They basically have what's called a pro forma to find out where the feasibility is, to make sure all these plans are grounded in economic feasibility. We're not just painting pretty colors on maps. We're actually doing plans that have a chance of succeeding. So we're going to be building that, and when you come back to the next meeting, we'll be able to tell you about those findings and about where it seems like Albuquerque's going, what your challenges are. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to say, what if you do nothing? Where will Albuquerque be? What if all your plans develop according to plan? Where will that put you, either by your recent practice or your plans? And that means, you know, basically doing nothing is a choice, and if you do nothing, things still happen. And so that's an important thing to see where you're going. We're going to be inviting you to workshops. There's going to be 6 workshops around the city, inviting you in to sit down with your neighbors and show us how you would plan the future. Show us that. And we're going to be having, it's a very fun process. You know, I was thinking we'd have 50 or 100 people. Now I think we better plan for big workshops. We've had, our record was 550 in Tulsa, and you may beat it, so we'll see. But basically, you get to show us your plans for the future. We digitize those and integrate them together and come back, and the plan will reflect all that input that we have. We're going to be putting that together with a bunch of other information on the sector plans, the neighborhood plans, other environmental considerations, and putting together a draft plan, bringing it back in September. Again, big open house, big event, rolling it out where you guys can see it and be ready to participate in the hearings as that goes through adoption. The goal is that this plan would be adopted by December, and then that's all the way we're doing this. We're working in conjunction with Clarion, who's working through updating the zoning code and getting that ready to go. When this is adopted in December, hopefully, it allows Clarion the next year to go through and finalize the code that will match the vision that's provided.
All right, that was the comp plan update element, and in just a few minutes, a few slides about the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance. These are the goals, guys. I've already jumped up on my soapbox to say yours is very complex. I know we can make it simpler and easier to do. Remember this, zoning sends messages to the private sector. If they're confused, the private sector is pretty good at not being confused. If they're confused, it's because you're sending them confusing messages. And so the process now, what we discovered is that not only is it complex, but sometimes the citizens think it's sending much clearer messages than the business community thinks it's sending in terms of what's going on. So getting that right is important. Rank 2 and rank 3 content. Let me head off a question. Don, are you going to gut our plans? Are you trying to take away the protections of my neighborhood, my interest, my business zone that we worked so hard to get? Answer, no. My job is to try to get those reflected in the zoning ordinance so that you don't have to read the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance and the sector plan in order to figure out what you can do. Because I will tell you that the staff is often baffled by what the answer to that question is, and they're not unintelligent people. It's because they don't match. What the zoning tells you to do is not what the other documents tell you to do, and they're not what the sector and area plans tell you to do. And figuring out that Rubik's Cube turns out to be really expensive, and it gives you different answers on different days. And so the unpredictability of the system is, in my mind, a big problem. So when we say rank 2 and rank 3 plan content, the idea is, can we reflect that? Can we reflect it in the comp plan? And can we reflect the related zoning things into the zoning ordinance of the city of Albuquerque? Better link to the planning goals, that kind of goes without saying. Encouraging investment, protecting neighborhoods. I got to tell you, I have never worked for a city where one of the key goals wasn't to protect stable residential neighborhoods. I'm kind of interested. I've done this for a quarter of a century. It's amazing to me how many cities share the same value. We'd like our corridors better. We'd like our centers more vibrant and more walkable and with better choices and better stores and retail, and we'd like better quality. And we want our neighborhoods protected better than they are now. This ain't rocket science, guys. I mean, those goals are, it shouldn't be that hard. The question is, how can you do both those things at one time? Many cities struggle with it. The advantage of being a national firm is we figured out in many cities how they do that, how they make redevelopment be a good neighbor to stable neighborhoods. And so that's the goal. Down at the bottom, the engineering standards, the document of engineering standards and procedures that you have to go through to get a development approval in Albuquerque are as thick as the zoning ordinance. And they're quite out of date. So a good bit of the work we've been asked to do is to update those two. To do not just zoning and subdivision and the regulations that are buried and scattered throughout the whole system, but to try to align and update the engineering standards, because so you don't get a different answer. You don't agree on what's possible, and then the engineer says, that's great, but the stormwater ain't going to work. So to try to get those things aligned and then streamline the review process. I want to talk about the timing and the flow. As we've said, the comp plan update is intended to be finished by the end of this year. The zoning ordinance and unified development ordinance is a 2-year process, and we will be working simultaneously. We don't wait for the planning process to end because, to be honest, there is so much that needs to be fixed in the regulations, that there's a lot of things we can be doing while the plan is being formulated, and just make sure that we're aligned with it. This is a flow chart, and I'm not going to read it to you other than to say along the left side are the tasks. That'll be on the website. You can read this if you want. We do this in chunks. When you think about the part I'll be leading, which is the Unified Development Ordinance, we don't just lay it down in front of you. We listen carefully at several events and venues and through the website up front. Then we come back and say, well, let's do this in 3 parts, because that way you can focus better on what this is about tonight. What meeting am I being asked to go to and what's it about? Number 1, what is the new menu of zone districts and what you can do in each zone district? That's the what can I do with my land component? What can my neighbor do with her land? What can the vacant lot on the corner do with that parcel? So it's the what can I do with my land or my property or my business, my building. That will have a discussion. Bring that back, and I'll tell you, in zoning, unlike planning, it's not productive to just sit around and talk about vague concepts. You need to put a draft on the table so you can go back to your neighbors, your business associates, and say, this is what they've proposed. Look at the footnotes. This is new. Do we like it? Do we not like it? This is a carryover. Okay, it's a carryover. Maybe we still don't like it. But to bring you something you can react to specifically. Second module, how good does it have to be in Albuquerque? How do I lay out the parking? How much parking do I need? Are they going to exempt me from parking because this is an area where they really need reinvestment and there's no traffic congestion and no impact? Lighting, signage, landscaping, buffering, I call that the how good does it have to be? How do I have to lay it out? It doesn't address what I can do with my property. It addresses how is it going to relate to the neighbors and what quality is it. Bring that back with a specific draft that we ask you to comment on. We'll come to meetings like this and explain. These are the big changes. Read the footnotes. It's in my interest that 2 years from now, none of you stand up and say, Don, you blew this by us. You're a dishonest man. I need you to say, I don't like this part of it, but you were honest. You told me what you were doing. And so we want to be very straightforward about that. Third part, process. So we talk about the rules of what you can do with your land, you and your neighbors, and the places you're concerned about, your neighborhood. How good would it have to be if your neighbor tears down their building and builds a new one, or reinvests and wants to get a new tenant in there? And then we say, if that was the scheme that hopefully would develop clear messages to the private sector and result in much more predictable zoning decisions, what process would we need to get there? And I'll tell you, in general, most cities want a clearer and a simpler process. And often, very often, the vast majority of the time, if we do our job right on the first 2 parts, when you get to the third part, you would say, if that's the way the system's going to work, then I would agree. We don't need as complicated a process to get through the approval process here. Now, we're not going to prejudge that. That's a decision that will happen a year and a half down the road. But that's the order in which we're going to do it, because we find it's easier for neighbors and business associations to know we're talking about this tonight. We're talking about this time, and not to try to do it all the time. We're going to market test it, and we will be, at the end of this, doing a map. Is the goal of this project to remap Albuquerque? No. Is the goal to get you a better toolbox that is aligned with your planning goals so you have the right districts and uses and standards so that you will get towards the planning goal that you want? Yes, and that will require some tweaks to the zoning map at the end of it. When we create new districts, simpler districts for mixed use or walkability or a stronger R1 zone, those things, the map has got to align with the new code. There will be a map. We will be very clear about that, but we're not going to talk about it till we get to the end of the process, because once we start talking the map, I lose all of your attention on what the rules and the zones could be. So we do that, but I'm going to be very clear. If you come to a meeting early in the process and you say, Don, show me your new zoning map, I say, I have no idea. I wasn't paid to come in here and try to redesign it. They're still doing the planning. How could I do that? So there will need to be a map that reflects the new code. We have not been instructed to upzone Albuquerque. We have not been instructed to downzone Albuquerque. We've been instructed to give you the best new code that we can that is politically acceptable and reflects a good balancing of the interest, and then align the map with it when we get into the end. We do have the www.abc-zone.com website, and in the next few months, you're going to find we will put on there what's the next meeting, what's it about, is this a planning workshop? Is this a zoning discussion to discuss something in particular? Make sure it's available on tablet and on iPhones as we go down the road. We're going to try to provoke you to get involved by giving you questions or things that will hopefully engage you and giving us answers as to which way you want to go. By the way, I had a question after the last meeting. Don, millennials don't go to meetings. How are you going to get their values in here? And the answer is you try to use every way you can to prod them and get them to weigh in and even give them ideas that are things that people care about in other cities that want to be attractive and accommodating to millennials, and let them react to it. So we use these techniques. In the end, it needs to work on the web. It's much more interactive and fun on the web to have the code operate that way. We know not everybody has internet access. We know not everybody is comfortable using the web, so it has to be available in book form. It will be. But over time, more and more will be on the web. The nice part of the web is it's searchable, a whole lot easily searchable. You'll be able to find the answers much quicker. But also, you can put in things like this yellow comment box. And you just say, yellow is not the law. Yellow is an idea that's supposed to guide your understanding. Why would the city require this? Pop on the box. That's the reason. That's why. That's an example. It just helps make the code much more informative, and frankly, it works better than a lot of the area sector area plans that you've got now, where the mix between what is an idea and what was intended to be a regulation is not at all clear. We've heard that over and over again. They're kind of put in a blender. And you may think it's regulatory, staff doesn't know, and the builder doesn't know. So this makes it a whole lot clearer. This is the law, this is the guidance, and in addition, you have the comp plan. I think I'll just skip these last ones. It kind of goes without saying. We try to draft in plain English. We try to use a lot more drawings, a lot more illustrations, a lot more flow charts. It'll be very interesting to walk through the processes in Albuquerque. I like to have staff draw me a simple flow chart about how this type of application is handled. I don't know if it'll happen in Albuquerque, but I've worked in cities where the staff can't answer that question. There are 3 different answers because it's so complicated, it's not clear. And somebody will say, well, we handle it this way, and another planner will say, actually, we don't, we handle it this way. So just getting people to agree on that and drawing them out is immensely helpful, mostly to neighbors and business groups, to say, I know who's going to decide, I know what they're going to use as decision process, I'm comfortable with that. There we go, that's our presentation. I hope we have given you a basic outline. I can't thank you enough for being here. I really hope you'll visit the website. I hope you'll download the documents. I hope you will tell anybody that wants to be involved, please be involved. We will try to be very clear on the website what the meeting is about so that you know whether you need to come or need to ask your neighbor to come, or maybe it's the member of your group who really cares about this, he can come. We'll try to be very clear about that, but we do thank you, and we're ready to take questions. So, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, let me get the mic.
Hi, my name is Jackie Garcia. I'm our local Place Matters team here in Bernalillo County. We're a nonprofit organization, and I'm here with other colleagues who are part of our team. So Place Matters is, we really look at how where you live, work, and play affects your health. So this is really important to us. We specifically look at land use decisions and how they affect your health here in Bernalillo County. So a few things, a few suggestions or requests. On your slide, the overall project goals, you have quality of life. And when some of the team members came and spoke to us, and we suggested that health be added to that. So it's on the website, and we're happy to see that. So if we can just keep that consistent, that health remains a consistent theme, and that we look at this whole process from the beginning. You look at departments in California, the planning department is constantly in communication with the public health department, and so when you have a healthy workforce and a healthy population, then these communities can be vibrant. So that's one request, is that we remain and continue this health conversation. The second thing I wanted to add is that we have a table in the back. We will be conducting a health impact assessment on this comprehensive plan. And what that entails is it's an actual scientific process where you look at a project, policy, or plan and assess whether it'll have any positive or negative health impacts. So if you're interested in participating in this process and project, please sign up in the back and put a star by your name, and we'll be contacting you for more information on this. My third thing that I want to add, in terms of community engagement, we're a big advocate of engaging the community. I'm pleased to see what you have laid out, but we have to keep in mind that we have a large Spanish-speaking population in our community. So my question is, how do you intend to reach out to our Spanish-speaking population in our high poverty areas in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County?
One clear way is that we've tried to include a Spanish-speaking member of our staff to try to make sure that when we hold these meetings, we have someone who can, in fact, do that. We have talked about translating the key documents and trying to make sure that they're available in Spanish as well. If you have a specific idea, I rarely hear an outreach idea that I don't think is a good one. If you've got an additional one besides using the various things we've mentioned tonight that you think would be particularly effective, let me know. We didn't mention some of them. The council folks, city council folks, we often feed them information about what's going on so they can get it out in their monthly newsletters, and that can be translated so that you get it through that venue. And we have an open list on the website. So anybody, any organization that wants to be notified can get notified. We should just make sure that that includes all the organizations that you think are going to be good conduits to the Hispanic neighborhoods, especially the poverty neighborhoods. I would love I'll get back here. I want to be clear about this. We're open to every idea. It is a difficult challenge. It's easier to say than it is to do successfully.
Hello, thank you. Excuse me, I've been a little sick. So, my name is Adrian Carver. I work for an organization called the New Mexico Forum for Youth and Community. And I just want to I'm going to make this really quick, but I want to make a couple of observations, a recommendation, and then a commitment. So my observations are, first of all, I thank you for acknowledging the millennial issue, but I'm one of the vast minority of people in this room, and that is young people. So, no hate. I don't hate on you. But the reality is, when
you're just thinking back,
you guys are giving it great. But the reality is these people are here because they're committed to our future, and in that same way, young people and members of the millennial generation and beyond, all the way from elementary to middle and high school, have a huge stake in what is happening here, and they have ideas that should be taken into account. Their experiences, their opinions are just as valid as anybody else's in this community, if not more, because they're going to be here longer. My second observation was that in the slide that said what your values are, I didn't see community involvement, and that disappointed me. I want an organization and a planning department that values community input and then holds themselves accountable to ensuring that that input is then placed into the plan and reflecting that. So I'd like to see, part of my recommendation is to see that there is explicitly stated community involvement in the development of this plan, but then to explicitly come out and say how you're going to be accountable to community members. So those are my recommendations, and then my commitment is to continue to work with the planning department and your firm to ensure that there are opportunities for young people to participate, because as a young person, I see this document as a tool for creating justice. And we need to achieve equity in health and education and racial justice, and this is a tool to do that, and you need our elementary and millennials to actually do that.
Very, very, very good comments. All right, applause. All right, equal time? No, I will. Let me mention a couple things. Now, you are correct, and I think the slide should have said that, and it has been. I want to let you know that our ability to connect with the community and to do successful citizen participation was a major part of the city's RFP process. If we haven't already, I think the website's up, but if not, we'll put the scope up. All right, it's up. We'll put the scope on there, and you will see that the number of tasks in both the comp plan and in the zoning ordinance, we had to lay out many ways in which we are going to connect with and be accountable to. So it is an error in communication in the slideshow and my presentation tonight. But I don't want you to tar the city with that. The city's, we had to go through a lot of hoops to try to explain all the different ways we were going to try to connect, including the Hispanic community. But I want to we'll put that out there now. In addition, about, I would say, 2 weeks from now, we are on the hook to put out a public engagement plan. And we, in addition to what we put in our scope of work, is the different things we'll do. And my memory is there are 8 different tasks as to how we're going to do different things to do this. We need to put that up, and we'd love your comments on it. I'm the one who said, I would like to tweak what we said in our proposal after we have these meetings. We're here for 3 days of meeting. I'm the one who said, I'd rather not put that up on the web now. I want to hear what people say, and these have been great comments tonight, and that will inform how we finalize the public engagement plan. So that will be on the web soon. So thank you. I see a hand back here, and then I'll come back up.
I think that's a beautiful statement about Spanish, but we have not only Spanish, we have a huge Asian population here. Somebody should be mentioning Native American, and we need to get those other languages involved.
Thank you. Thank you. I saw, maybe go hands over here, but I saw one up. Let me take you and then I'll come back. Here we go.
In our neighborhood, we have a lot of people, mostly older, who don't use computers at all. So I'd like to hear something about other ways to communicate with people. We keep saying the web, but we have a lot of, and we'll try to get the word out, but there are a lot of people. Maybe you could send out mailers and things in the newspaper.
We're going to have to use whatever we can to get out. I think we're going to count on using as broad an outreach as possible, and we will not be able to do mailers for everything we do. What we'll have to do is create mailers that make sure that those who are not comfortable using computers or don't want to use computers or don't have computers know the alternative way, and we know who those organizations and people are so we can get it. I'll just be very honest with you. There's so much going on. We will not be able to do mailers on all of them, but we can use mailers and things to try to make sure we have identified and figured out the different ways we need to get things to people that don't involve computers. That's the best I can do. So.
Thank you. I'm Kim Seidler. The schedule you've laid out, I think, is remarkably ambitious, and I hope it's realistic. More power to you. Recognizing that effective plans result in things that develop on the ground, will an analysis of potential environmental effects related to the plan update be prepared for review by decision makers and the public before they are called upon to approve the plan?
The answer is yes, but John, do you want to amplify on that in terms of the environmental impacts and how that's going to affect planning process? In terms of, you've already explained that your model lays out different scenarios for the future and the impacts of them.
Right, and that the plan, when it comes out in September, will have all the indicators, which include environmental impacts. We have basically, obviously, land cover, impervious surface, energy consumption, water consumption, pollution, vehicle miles travel, a whole bunch of other things that will tell you about both the plan and where you would be if you hadn't done the plan, which is to do nothing alternative.
I want to comment a little bit since you raised the schedule. You were very polite. It's an ambitious schedule. I want to, that is our contract with the city. They need to move through this. We need to get through it. I'll tell you on the zoning side, 2 years is a reasonable schedule, but I believe in maintaining momentum. I think all of you probably have households or families or other things. We do not want death by meetings, okay? So in the zoning side, we lay out a schedule by which we say, look, here's when we're putting this out, we'll post it, we'll get as much outreach as we can to get people to the meeting. But after we get your comments and we track them all, and we keep track of them, we're not going to produce another draft of each chapter as we do it. We're going to say, there's part one, here are the comments on part one. Here's part 2. Here are the comments on part 2. Here's part 3. Here are the comments on part 3. Here is all of it together with an explanation of how we dealt with the comments that have come in. I need to keep it moving forward, not only because that's part of my contract, but part of it is that's how you maintain budget control. We don't overspend the budget, but also, I'll be very honest, people like you are more willing to come out and engage and help create the answers if you see the light at the end of the tunnel. The day you start thinking this ain't going nowhere, this is a waste of time, you stop showing up. Then who shows up? Then the people who are paid to show up because they're getting paid for it. So in order to keep the middle ground, the citizens, the people who are using their own time and not being paid to come to meetings, we have to keep the list of meetings reasonable, and we have to keep it moving. So if you think I'm rushing it, it's not because I'm in somebody's pocket. It's because I've done this a lot, and in 2 years, through a sequential review process, you should be able to get there. And I'm doing it not because I want to ram the thing through, but because I need to keep a broad spectrum of people involved. And the way to do that is to give you confidence that it is actually going to get there on schedule. So that's why we do it that way. So, boy, this side is really complacent over here. Just, I'll come back to you in a minute. There's a woman hand back here.
Hi, my name is Linda Dietz, and I have a question. I live in the county, so I'm only going to be interested in the first year's effort. And so when you use the word "it" being completed in 3 steps, I'm not sure which.
There are 2 different processes. The zone, you're correct, the Unified Development Ordinance process that I laid out in 3 steps is about the zoning, which is Albuquerque City. The workshops that John talked about, he's going to do a series of workshops that involve the total county city plan. And we will be clear in our public notices which of those of the meeting is about. Now, I'll be very honest with you. If you show up at the meeting and it's a planning meeting and you didn't get the notice, or you want to comment on the code, or that's the only night you could come, we will always take your comments. We understand. But we'll try to be clear so you don't wind up at a meeting and then just say, well, I didn't even need to come to this meeting. So we will have some meetings that are joint meetings. Some meetings will be one or the other. We'll try to be as clear as we can as to which is which so you don't waste gas money driving to something you didn't need to go to.
Yes, I'm Don Metters, a member of many civic organizations and neighborhood association, etc. I've found that doing simultaneous translation with headsets for various languages works very well. Those systems are out there. I see them at many meetings, and you could probably tailor your translation to the neighborhood you're going to be in if you do your homework ahead of time and know if you need a Vietnamese translator, Spanish translator, whatever. The other thing is, I hope this isn't one of these deals where we spend 2 years on a planning process that's pretty much ignored once it's done. We have stacks of those bookcases already, and it takes up a lot of valuable time by the activists. We spend a lot of hours and hours, and then we see the whole thing just ignored. So that's my comment.
All right. Well, it was politely made, given what you said. That was good. No, fine. In terms of the translation, I'm going to say that the reason I wanted to have these meetings first is to take suggestions like that into account. I'm going to talk to Tim and John and the team and try to figure out what we think is the best way to do it, basically. I don't have an answer for you. You should be happy about the fact that the city and the county are doing the plan update and then doing the code. The reason, no offense, John, the reason that I do what I do is that the world is full of plans that never happen. So I decided 15, 20 years ago that even though my kids think it is the most boring thing anybody could do with their lives.
And it is.
And they tell us that. In fact, I like working on implementation. Once you get the vision, and I'll be very clear, sometimes there are parts of your vision that can't be done through zoning. I mean, there are things that you can write down, but they're unenforceable. There are things that you can write down that would take 6 staff members to enforce, and you don't have 6 staff members to enforce. So figuring out which part of this vision is inspirational, is a goal, and which part can actually be put in an incentive or a law that this city could enforce consistently, that's my job description. So the short answer is, I hope it's not. I don't think it is. If I do my job and we take the comp plan and we try to get as much of that DNA reflected in an understandable UDO, it won't be ignored because it'll be the law. Now, I know that we've heard comments, if only the city would enforce what it writes. And we can try to simplify that. Suzanne told you, you could mention, the city's trying to get additional enforcement powers that allow it to enforce more cheaply than taking people to criminal court all the time. Those are things that most cities do because part of enforcement is simplifying the costs and the procedures for enforcement. New codes have new tools on that. So, it won't just sit there in the sense that it'll be reflected in the code. We can do what we can to make the enforcement tools more realistic for what you have. And then we can try to build the confidence that, in fact, what's written down will be enforced consistently. You had your hand up, I think.
I wanted to make a follow-up point to the idea that we have a lot of plans on our shelves. There was a really big effort, what was it, 10 years ago for the plan growth strategy. They looked at trend scenarios, and so I'm hoping that all of that energy and that data isn't just ignored as we look at new trends or old trends and these things. And the other comment that I wanted to make was that there's something called the decision-making theater that is down at in Arizona, and they have people that have the sort of the idea of modeling in front of decision makers. And one of the very successful parts was when they talked to Phoenix, and they said, this is what new growth means. It means that the water table here will drop. And it was really astounding to see the impacts, the effects on the environment, if you will. And somebody was raising that. To see the impacts of what growth will mean when we look at dust and all of those others, if you can actually visualize it through models. And the declining of the aquifer was a great tool. So I just wanted to put that into your
I wanted to address certainly both of those, but the first one, in terms of implementable plans. I mean, Don's right, although I've been a planner for almost 40 years. I have some plans that's sitting on shelves. But I have a lot that are on the ground that have made a change. There's several things that go into that. Number one, you've got to have political consensus. You've got to have more than 51%. So people have to know about this, they have to be involved, and you have to basically capture the public vision. Number two, it's got to be economically feasible. You've got to be able to do this stuff and not have too much stuff that's visionary. You've got to have the codes. That's really, really important. And that's one of the key things. And there's a lot of plans that fail because they have a vision, they don't go and do the work in the codes. And number four, sometimes you need an incentive. You need to prime the pump. And I think we're going to come back with all those strategies in the comp plan update. And you've already funded the most important part, one of the most important parts, which is the code update. So, and I think, you know, we're going to be doing, I think you'll be pleased to see the amount of indicators that we can have, and we are going to use that. I can't remember the name of that thing in 2004, but a friend of mine did it. I know all about it, and we'll be looking into that. Pardon me? Plan growth strategies, yes, and we'll be looking in that along with all the other plans. We're building on the foundation of plans that you've got, not starting from scratch. So we're going to have all that under our feet.
We have, I see two more hands, three more hands.
Speaking to the implementation, as part of your contract, also, once this is adopted by City Council, kind of weaves its way to the planning department, is part of your contract to help train the planners, who most of them are here tonight, and also DMD, Department of Municipal Development, and the road standards people, because that's where the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
Yay!
I was just wondering, in addition to the website, if this is possible, that there might be an app on iPhone.
Yep. I am almost certain that we have a subcontractor that we work with very frequently on this out of Denver, Urban Interactive Strategies, and they love to do apps. I think you can count on that, so thank you. I had a hand back here and a hand here. Let's do these.
Right now, example, there are huge blocks of office zoning, and the vacancy rate is over 20%. What can you do now? Is there anything at the end of 22 years? These things are turning into the slum.
The question was, if you want a zoning change now, do you have to wait 2 years till we're done? The answer is no. Our advice to all cities is, sorry, most of you can't see me back here. Our advice to all cities is, the fact that we're working on the engine doesn't mean the car doesn't keep going down the road. They have got to continue to do business. If we told you to stop changing zoning because we're working on it, first of all, your business community wouldn't stand for it. But it also sends a terrible message. The city's got to create confidence that until they change the rules, you can rely on the rules, and that includes the rule that you can come in. So I have not been asked to rezone anything to absorb overcapacity in office space. That's not part of our job. But if people bring those forward in the process, they will be processed the same way they are today. So, did I see? Oh, you had your hand up there. Maybe one over here.
Hi, thank you. In listening to you, I'm wondering to what extent you begin to find commonality between the problems that Albuquerque faces and many other cities around the country, contrasted with a peculiarity, a uniqueness to Albuquerque, its carrying capacities, its social cultures, its oddness. And to what extent will the comp plan look oddly just Albuquerquean and just Bernalillo County and not like any other place? It couldn't possibly fit. I wonder if you talk about that a little bit, the uniqueness.
I will. John can also, if you'd like. I had a city manager in Texas, not to beat on Texas, but tell me a couple years ago, Don, by 20 years from now, you should have figured out how to write a zoning code and just sell it to us. And I said, I can't. I've never succeeded. We don't even take parts of what we've drafted for other people and use it over and over again. At Tark and I, we have to write them over and over again. We look at best ideas we've had. So the short answer is, we try to build the code from the ground up. There are commonalities in cities. And if you tell us, look, we've got some people who want live work, we can give you good examples of a structure in which you can actually run a business and live in the business. It's not going to turn out the same in Albuquerque as it does in other cities, but we can bring the ideas to the table from other places. But every code I've written has been the product of meetings that we have, and it turns on political culture, it turns on, as you said, carrying capacity, the water. It's such a huge issue here. Here, one of your uniqueness has been, in my experience, the land use and transportation are more out of whack than they are in a lot of places. Another uniqueness is, in the process of living and doing what you needed to do to protect your areas, your rules have become way more complicated than most other places. And I'll just say this in the group here, guys. One of the other uniquenesses about Albuquerque, so that the code and the plans will be grown in Albuquerque. The issues are things we can bring you examples of how other people solve them, but the solution that you come up with will be purely Albuquerque. If you want to know one of the other unusualness about Albuquerque, I'll just say it. There's a lot of distrust. And it's part of our job to wind this up so that the level of distrust between government and business community and citizens you are unusual in that respect. And I think I don't want to put it all on my shoulders. I think part of the reason is the rules and the codes have been so hard to adopt that they've produced unpredictable results, which is why you add another chapter, which produces also unpredictable results, which is why you produce another chapter, which produces unpredictable results. And each time you add a layer of, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen, the level of distrust grows. So I think we can do a lot to do that, but I'm just being very honest. Part of it is difficult to face the future and try to figure out how to run your city in an atmosphere of cynicism or distrust as much as here. So I'll get it back in a minute, but I'm going to ask you now what I would have asked you at the very end. Please give us a chance to show that we can do things that would help bridge that gap, because we think we can. And it would be in the long run interest. And there are large cities that run without the level of distrust that's going on here. So I'd like to be part of, I think we can be part of that solution if you'll give us a chance to do that. So thanks.
Hi, Don. My name is Lisa. I'm from Wells Park area. And writing on the comment that you just made as far as distrust, my community went up against EPC for more than a year trying to get them to follow a sector plan. A lot of what we saw going on was the business interest taking over for the residential interest. After we fought that fiercely, we went before EPC twice, and it was very evident to us that they had already made up their mind before we even presented the second time. Now, in regards to distrust, there was a lot of frustration on our part because we thought, you know, if you guys would have just been honest with us in the beginning, we wouldn't have wasted our time and we wouldn't have this increasing distrust. So may I suggest, sir, I'm not a planner, I don't have your job, and I very much respect what you do, but may I suggest that there be some level of transparency with the participants, and you tell us right off the bat, hey, this is what we're thinking, and then we will know when it's all said and done after we've introduced our comments and we've all gone through the workshops and we've all participated, that you actually have met us somewhere in between. Because a lot of the time we feel like it's just a game and we're just spinning our wheels. Not saying that you're doing that, but that's just a recommendation.
A lot of support for that. You had your hand up.
Good evening, my name is Vicki, and I just want to say that if you're going to involve the community, I think the most important thing you can do in this also builds a level of trust. There are many people in my community, when we have come up with anything having to do with planning situations or zoning changes or proposed change of use, you will send them the information and they'll read it and then they'll look at me and go, what does that mean? If you could implement some kind of helpline to where those who do not use the web and who are not particularly articulate in web and city planning, and who is, frankly, someone they could talk to that is not in city planning, but affiliated with you to explain what's going on to them in plain English. I think that will build a level of trust for you. Because whenever something has happened, we've always thought, they did this to us. Because it was not explained, and no one in my neighborhood practically has a computer, and they wouldn't go near one if they did.
So you need, I take that very seriously. You have a hand back here.
The whole item of trust and distrust brings me, the question I wrote down was, the comp plan is a conceptual document, correct? But it can be overridden, it can be tromped on, it can be ignored by policymakers, and we have many, many good examples in this community where the comp plan clearly said you cannot put that big box store at that intersection, and 5 years later, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of work and time and attorney's fees, we got the big box store. And that has happened repeatedly, and we're really paranoid. Right now, I think the community is paranoid that everything that comes down the pipe can turn somebody's head and it'll just get overridden and it'll get built no matter what you're. I really believe in the planning process. I think it's really important, but I also believe that policymakers ignore those of us who voted them in.
Okay, great. Well, at the risk of repeating myself, I'll say I think part of the way to erode that is to be clearer in the code as to what you can do and to limit. We run into this. Tark and I are writing a code in a neighborhood, a city that I will not name out of respect for them, where the code has been so bad for so long that, to be honest, mayors have been elected and they have told the planning director, find a way to get around this code, because it doesn't work. And so the staff who work try to do their best, but they are told to find a way to turn blue into green, to turn something that is really not intended to. And so I don't want to put it all in the code, but I will say this. America is a system of law. If the laws are not reflecting your goals and the laws are too vague to guide decisions, you're not going to get what you want. And that's what's happened here. I'll do one more question back here. Yeah.
Well, that's all fine and good, but if you don't have elected officials who will do what you want them to do, it goes nowhere. And I think there's a lot of attitude here. I know some of the people here, with a lot of us who put a lot of heart, passion, time, effort, and it gets nowhere. We go to our elected officials and they say there's just not the will of the council to help. We see this big problem going on, we know that we're wide open, we know something's going to happen, and then boom, it happens, like it happened at the gas station at Constitution and Carlisle. I was jumped up at the Supreme Court yesterday, having to file an appeal, something I don't even know anything about. Hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent on lawsuits because the council had no will to protect our neighborhoods when they had the chance. And now we're trying to close the barn door long after the tanker truck has left. And so I really appreciate everybody's comments about that. The distrust is not because we were sitting around not doing anything and not because we didn't know what was going to happen. We saw it, we knew it, we tried to fix it, and no one would help us. And now the city isn't helping us either. I've had issue after issue trying to get zoning enforcement, and it's in paper. It's not a problem with the planning document that it's not written down. It's in black and white. You can't have 2 dwelling units on an R1 lot. What are they doing? I call down to city enforcement? Well, yeah, they can. That's fine. No problem. That's not right, and that has got to change. And this level of mistrust and anger is never going to change unless that gets changed. If it's in black and white and it's enforceable, it needs to be enforced on.
Thank you. In the interest of time, it's now 7. Oh, we have one more. We'll do one more then. I'll do one more. Then we'll stay around and answer individual questions. But we said 7:30, so we'll respect your time.
Thank you. As a popular educator, I feel that bridging the gap in trust has a lot to do with process. So meaning developing a partnership with base communities who may not speak your vernacular. Can you speak a little bit about your approach to community planning and ensuring that the residents who will be most affected by new plans can understand the language of the plan and how to use that language in order to truly affect the final product and to feel a sense of ownership over it?
Well, first of all, I think our process is very approachable. People can come in and participate in that process. They're not being lectured to. We try to make it plain English, and I think that is, we make it very graphic and not long, something that's very approachable and easy to understand. And when needed, we can do it in multiple languages. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think if you develop a plan from community values and common sense, people can understand that and understand how it works and how it reflects their values and can then participate meaningfully. And I know, Don, you mentioned in the zoning code even, which is a higher level because it's law, it has to be precise, but you use plain English and try to stay with it.
My goal, and I don't think I achieved, my goal is this. My goal is that a person with a high school education should be able to read the code and understand what they can do with their property and what their neighbor can do with their property and what the guy on the corner can do with his property. So that's what we aim at in terms of trying to use. I have no patience for jargon. I have zero patience for jargon. It upsets me. I think it's people with higher education trying to intimidate people who are not in their field. It upsets me. So we try not to do that. The point of the plan and the code is for you guys. It's not for everybody. Let me close with this. I could hear from the applause that the comment about distrust hit a chord, and many of you have very serious reasons to believe that there's a lot of reason for distrust. That's what you're telling me. I urge you to believe that it doesn't have to be that way. You either have to believe that the city is never going to be trustable, or the business community is never going to be trustable, or you believe it can change. I have to ask you to give us some opportunity to show that we can help change that, to help to try to change that culture. Otherwise, you have wasted your money and you shouldn't be working with us. And we should just leave it the way it is. I'll tell you, I don't think you will be happy with the Albuquerque that happens if you leave it the way it is. But I want to close with this. Just as I take very seriously the emotional tone I heard in the stories of mistrust, some of you think the city has been written, the code has been written for the business community. I will tell you, the business community does not think it was written for them. They think it was written for you. So that's for the stories that you tell. And I understand this woman's comment. It was in black and white, Don. It wasn't unclear. They just didn't do it. We hear stories from the builder that are back the other way. It was clear that I could do it, and then they appealed it. And it was still clear that I could do it, and they appealed it. Guys, that's the bridge, that's the gap we have to bridge, but this is a good process. We generally get there. I will say this. If we do this process right and you communicate with us and we're honest with you through the process, we won't try to blow smoke at each other or just be difficult to be difficult. When we get to the end of this process, almost every code, I can only remember 1 or 2 that didn't get approved. And they often get approved unanimously. And it's not because we're so smart. It's because the process leads you to call problems by their real names and find some middle ground or a principle that you can agree on. And at the end of the day, you say, I didn't get everything I wanted, but this is a far better platform to go forward on than the one I got now. So I ask you to please give us a chance to show that we can lead down that path with you folks and help us. Thanks.
Thanks. I know you're all exhausted, want to go home. Just one last thing. This week, Senator Jacob Candelaria introduced Senate Bill 382, and I wanted to share that with you. Basically what it is legislation that would amend the state statutes to allow counties and cities throughout New Mexico to use civil administrative remedies for enforcing the zoning code and other ordinance that have to do with the condition of property, such as how tall your weeds are. What we have found is that, at least in Albuquerque, when we want to enforce, and if someone is not voluntarily complying with our enforcement efforts, then we are required to take them to criminal court. That can be a slow process, and when we do arrive there, we're on the same docket as domestic violence, driving under the influence, and other very serious matters. Not to say that our zoning matters are not serious, but only that the judges are sort of looking at us like, why are you here? I have to deal with these things. So what we are trying to do is not take away the ability to have criminal penalties where appropriate, or in whatever counties or cities want to use that. All we are trying to do is add the potential for civil remedies. And so I will be sending out a letter shortly to neighborhood associations and various business organizations asking for your support, asking you to contact your legislators and your representatives to please support Bill 382. Thank you very much and have a good evening.